Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What's up, Headliner Nation? Chris Chow's back again for the Fantasy Headliners. Today we continue down the off-season workbook train, man, and today we got the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up, baby. This team is a very interesting club. Are they overachievers? Is this only really built around King Henry? Can they do it with others? So many question marks. Obviously, losing out in the playoffs the way they did. They seem to be a very beatable squad, even though they were the first-place team. But they got a lot of headaches coming their way this offseason. They're going to have to maneuver. They're going to have questions to answer, especially is King Henry going to be limited in 2022? Was this a foreshadow of things to come, man? I know he's a beast. He's a cyborg, but there's going to be lots of questions. So let's dive in to the Tennessee Titans workbook. So like I'm saying, man, the Titans are this club that's kind of that enigma, to say the least, because, their record stands very good. We could say that it was schedule determined based on weaker competition, but 12-5, first in the AFC South. Obviously, the division, the AFC South, isn't overly abundant with talent yet either. The Colts were there. The Colts did make a push, but Carson Wentz, he was Carson Wentz. So, here we go, man. Points for on the offense, everything offensively, we should say, was of the middle ground except for pass yards. The rushing yards being fifth in the league, even with Henry being out since week 8? That's ridiculous. That just shows you how much volume Henry provides for this offense, how much they covet him in this offense to make plays, man. They did lose in that division round to Cincinnati, which Cincinnati eventually went to that Super Bowl. Did they overachieve after King Henry was lost to injury? That's the question mark that I have. Did they overachieve? And, there's a lot of things that I could say that it's possible. That defense, though, we got to talk about that defense when we talk about the Titans, because that front line and that front seven definitely stepped up and came to play, man. They were ballers. Second against the run, total yards 12th and points 6th. That's baller style, man. We do know that pass yards was a little bit off on the defensive back end, and they did not produce the way they should have, but injuries also helped in that cause, aided in that cause, I should say. But for the season statistics, Ryan Tannehill, I've always been a quiet supporter of the man. I'm not overly supportive of him as being elite caliber in quarterback play, but he's more than efficient and more than able to get things done. He's just not explosive. And I wonder if that's because of how they morph this offense to be, man. Injuries to Henry and Julio, like I said, injuries to defensive back end, massive. Injuries to offensive line, the injuries did happen and occur. Foreman did step up. We do like to see that. It was a very welcome surprise for the Titans to at least continue their run attack. Tannehill was okay, nearly 4,000 yards, but his turnover rate was massive this year. 14 interceptions. He had quite a few fumbles, if I'm not mistaken. King Henry, he was a beast, as always, in those 8 games. 219, almost 1,000 yards, and 10 rushing touchdowns. He is the train that keeps this offense moving. A.J. Brown is one of those guys as well that falls into that enigma category. He is the elite wide receiver talent that we all covet, that we all love, and we understand, especially fantasy football-wise. But the problem is he disappears from time to time. He is starting to deal with injuries as well, year after year after year, whether he's playing hurt or he's missing contests. This is something that we just got to expect from A.J. Brown at this point. Julio Jones was traded in the offseason to the Titans for that pick, and he did not play a lot of football as well. He was dealing with injuries the entire season, still basically the second wide receiver. Westbrook-Ikhine, he did also step up, 38 catches, 476, and 4 touchdowns. So, they did have a lot of players that did step up when they were called upon and when they were needed, okay? But, overall, this offense isn't terrible without Henry, and they proved that they could still compete and move the ball. Are they a 12-5 club that I would be fearful of? Probably not, man, because I think a lot of teams could beat them, and like the Cincinnati Bengals, even though Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times in that contest, they still managed to find ways to win the game, and that was with King Henry returning. And I get it, he was playing on that injured foot, likely not 100%, but this is kind of the Tennessee offense this season. When we dive into the salary cap, I should say, The Titans also find themselves in a negative trade, man. Negative $6.6 million. They got some trouble on the books as well. They got some top free agents to contend with this offseason. I mean, they declined the Evans fifth-year option, so he is now a free agent as well. Brown, they voided his contract, I should say. But, I mean, your top dog on the free agent open market is Harold Landry, man, 25 years old. This guy is going to be a must re-sign. He has turned the corner at his young age, and he's starting to get it, man. He's starting to feel himself, and he's got the game. $17 to $18 million is going to be his average per annual, and I mean, that's a hefty sum, especially when you owe $6.6 million on the books. Evans, like I said, he did not pick up his fifth-year option, so he will likely be a free agent for $4.5 to $6.5 million. He has been somewhat underwhelming, but in the right system and scheme, he can do damage on this defense. Brown as well, he is a free agent, $3.5 to $5 million, so they are losing linebacker talent like massively on this team at this point. Anthony Firkser, man, $3 million to $4.5 million. He will likely covet at 26 years of age. Swam, same as him. I mean, 3.5 is likely his top end. I don't see both of them coming back. Firkser, I wouldn't hate. He has shown the ability to be at least a reliable target in this offense that Ryan Tannehill can lean upon when called upon. Ben Jones, your center, he is $6.5 million market value right now, and he is likely one of these priority free agents also. This offensive line is the bread and butter and what gets this offense humming, especially in the run game for Derrick Henry. The protection for Ryan Tannehill has to be there. The play action pass is how this team operates and moves, so you know you got to lock up your offensive line. Westbrook-Ikhine, I mean, 24 years old. He is an RFA, so like I said in other videos for RFAs, you cannot speak to other clubs. He will likely fetch somewhere around $750K to $1 million on the open market, man. When it comes to potential cap savings, I mean, we got to find them where we can because, I mean, 6.6, you're going to get out of this hole for sure. We know that. But, I mean, there's lots of maneuvering that can be had, and take this with a grain of salt. I'm only here to preach and promote where they could save dollars, not saying that it's going to happen like a Taylor Lewan. He can save money on the books, 12.81 with only 1.79 dead. Does that mean they're going to cut him? They could restructure his contract or extend his contract to lower that cap hit and earn cap dollars that way. But where I'm saying the mass savings could happen is if cut or traded, 12.81 on the books. Julio Jones also leaves $9.5 million in savings with 4.8 going to dead. I mean, this trade just was not a good deal, okay? A second-round pick, we knew Julio was dealing with injuries for a majority of his career, and again, he dealt with them heavy here in Tennessee, man. Basically, what? He only had 34 receptions, like I said, for 434 and 1 touchdown. Those are terrible Julio Jones numbers, and he was supposed to be the caveat to help A.J. Brown and to help this passing offense. Did not come to fruition this season. Roger Saffold, the guard as well, $10.5 million in savings, 2.37 on dead. But again, like Taylor Lewan, you got to keep your offensive line. So I really don't expect them to be dealt or released, but I could definitely see them restructure these deals, get extensions to lower those cap numbers. Zach Cunningham, he came from the Houston Texans. He's got $10.5 million with no dead funds. I fully expect him to either, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets released. Simply, he is a good linebacker. He makes a lot of tackles, but at 10.5, that is a stretch for me to believe that he is going to remain on this roster without at least a contract extension. Either if they release him, they could also re-sign him. $10.5 million is far too rich for my blood. Jack Rabbit, Janorius Jenkins, man, $6.9 million with 3.2 going to dead funds. And I mean, I like Jenkins. I still think that he is a very sure-handed corner, good cover corner, but I mean, with this pass defense being in the 25 below when it comes to pass yards given up, yes, I understand that they had injuries to other defensive backs, but I mean, at 6.9, I would not be shocked, especially with the youth that they do have in this defensive back room with Caleb Farley and Christian Fulton. I really would be shocked to see if they don't at least shake the trees on releasing Jenkins at this point. Tannehill has the money tied up in his contract right now. 18.29% of his money is on the cap hit. 18.29 for Ryan Tannehill, and he gave you a lot of turnovers this year. That's got to get cleaned up. $38 million, 57 dead. I mean, Tannehill is locked up for a long time. Bud Dupree, he was a good one. Also dealt with injuries as well, but when he's on the field, he helps this defensive front bar none. Him and Jeffrey Simmons, I mean, they were just ballers when they played together. Simmons lifted his game up to another level. Nearly $20 million for Bud Bud Dupree. Kevin Byard, he is your baller, man, at the safety position. $15.8 million, 8.2 in the dead. I could totally see this contract be restructured as well. Give some more bonus money to drop this cap hit for Byard. He is a staple on this defense, so he will not be cut, no doubt. He won't likely be traded, but you can maneuver money on his contract to get more funds. King Henry, man, $15 million on his contract this season with $6 million in dead funds. Again, you're not moving him. I'm just saying that's where you got the money all tied up on this Tennessee team right now. So there is potential in cap savings for the Tennessee Titans of $50 million. So you know what? They could go in other directions where they do restructure, where they do cut bait with some of these players, and they can have money on the books to spend to recoup and retool, not rebuild, retool this offense overall in general, man. As for the NFL draft, I mean, team needs, we got to say right off the bat, it's got to be tight end and O-line. And if I say O-line, it's only because you have the potential to release some of this talent and get some really good talent from the offensive line in this draft, man. Linebacker, edge, wide receiver also got to be a top priority for this Titans team. They continue to draft wide receivers, and they just don't hit outside of A.J. Brown. I mean, Westbrook-Akeen, he did show levels of good play, solid play, but they need really good secondary pieces, and especially at the tight end spot. You know, Jonnu Smith, his loss, we didn't know how it was going to be felt on this team. It definitely was felt a lot. So, I mean, in the first round, they got pick number 26. I would suggest if they are going to go down the path of releasing some of that offensive line, that's got to be your first pick in this draft. Perhaps you do trade up to get the man you covet, but there is a lot of offensive line in this draft that can be had. If they do go the linebacker route where they do sign Harold Landry, but let go of Evans, Brown, and others, I mean, now you got a linebacker that you need to pick up here. Will they be out of the mix for the top two guys? Very likely. So then I would not hate to see Tennessee trade down in this respect, gain more picks in that second round, gain the value for the linebackers that you could get and offensive line you could get in that second round. That's kind of where I would head. They do have an extra fourth and an extra sixth, no seventh, no second, seventh and second picks in this draft because of the trade to Julio Jones. But if you want rookie evaluation scouting reports, go ahead, hit up Headliner. You go subscribe today, man. Do us that favor, and we will be breaking down all these rookies this offseason, so you guys are in the know, man. You know, players under contract right now, this team overall is still very, very solid and well put together, barring health issues of Derrick Henry. Okay, you still got Tannehill, Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, but this defense is where I do look up here, man. Jeffrey Simmons is that guy. We knew, and I especially knew, he was a top 5 talent coming into that draft class. The injury precluded him from being selected at that point, but you know, when he got back to full health, he definitely showcased what he can do. He is a beast of a man. Autry was a great sign in the past offseason. He was a menace on that defensive line. Same with Bud Dupree, Kevin Byard, Jenkins, Farley, and Fulton, like I mentioned, are your dogs on this defense. And you can see their cupboards are very well stacked, man. And the way the coaching staff utilizes this team, it's very well rounded, and they are a good put together club. With Henry, do we believe the question marks, is he going to get injured again? I mean, that's kind of the questions. Is his body at the point where he is a cyborg? We know this. Freak of an individual, freak of a man. But is it at the point that eventually, with all the workload that he has endured, will we see another injury? I mean, this foot was a freak break. We understand. I mean, it happens to the best of these NFL players. But will this now be a common theme, or will Henry just recover and rebound like we know he will? These are the questions that are going to be asked and seen, especially in the preseason. He should be back to full health come the preseason, but as the year wears on, again, I do believe they got to start to limit the overall touches that Henry gets, utilize that play action pass a little bit more. If they do decide to keep Julio Jones, his health is in question. They need A.J. Brown to stay out of the medical room as well. We got a lot of Band-Aids on this offense right now, on this team in general, and that is what is hampering this Tennessee Titans team from taking it to the next level. But they are a well put together club, and I fully expect them to compete once again this next season for the division crown in the AFC South. So there you have it. That is the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up, baby. Titan fans, you still got a lot to look forward to. I mean, fantasy football-wise, they still got a boatload of talent that we covet and we will be drafting. But we need to see overall, rounding out of this offense, Tannehill needs to be better. King Henry, will he stay healthy? Obviously the question mark. But I do like this Titans team overall to, again, compete in the AFC South because just based on how it is. Carson Wentz likely out the door. We don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson in Houston. So, Jacksonville, they got their problems. So, Tennessee, you got this division all locked up again, even if you do limit King Henry's touches and you keep rounding out and build this roster to be better and to compete that much more. But nevertheless, man, that's all I got. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. I am out.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle